Bari, are you on?
Yes, that's me.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay, so we're just going to, Suzanne, obviously. We will be starting in a few minutes. We're having people sign on so far. And as a heads up, we have 26 people registered for this. So
fantastic.
Yeah, so we'll give folks a few minutes, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Hi, folks. This is Suzanne Simon with Restore America's Estuaries. Just want to let you know that we are here, and we're just waiting for folks to sign on. So hang tight. Hi folks, it's Suzanne with Restore America's Estuaries. We'll be starting in just a few minutes. A bunch of people are signing on right now, so hang tight. Okay, Bari, can you hear me? Bari? All right, Bari, are you there? Ah, good point. I do need to unmute you, don't I? There you go, Bari, are you there now?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, so sorry about that. I had you muted on the main panel. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right.
I felt like we were in one of those Verizon Wireless commercials from a few years ago. Can you hear me now?
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. All right. So first of all, welcome and thank you for joining us today for a Living Shorelines Community of Practice webinar on SAGE, which is a systems approach to geomorphic engineering. I am Suzanne Simon with Restore America's Estuaries, where I'm the Strategic Programs Manager. On behalf of our presenter and all the staff here at RAY, I would like to thank you for joining us. Before we begin the presentation, I have a few quick announcements. First of all, for sound quality, all participants will be in listen-only mode, as evidenced right there by me forgetting to unmute Bari. If you are having any issues or technical problems, you can press *0 for operator assistance. Also, I've had a couple of you email me already some questions, and you can do that as well. We will be posting this. We are currently recording this session, and we will be posting it once we process it. So the agenda is pretty typical of what we've had in the past, where we will start with national updates, regional updates, and then Bari Greenfeld with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will give a short presentation, followed by Q&A. Again, if you do have any questions, go ahead and just there's a little thing that you can send a question to. And assuming everything goes as planned, there will be a brief survey at the end of the webinar that you'll get via email. And in that, it's just a quick, I made it very painless, I hope. But not only is it about this webinar, but also about potential upcoming topics. So, so I will start off. Let's see, we have 23 people on the call, which is fantastic. And so what I will do is I will go ahead and give a quick national update and then ask anybody that has any other national updates to raise their hand, and I will unmute you individually. So from my perspective, I think the big piece of information is that appropriations and policies are still being churned out on the Hill in Congress, and again, the idea is to continue to stay abreast of that and stay in touch with your local representatives and federal partners on that front. Let's see, I don't see any other hands up, so Any hands? Any hands? I don't see any hands. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do some regional updates. And so Bhaskar, I see that you're on, and so I'm going to unmute you. Hopefully you're ready to go for a Mid-Atlantic update. Here we go. Bhaskar, there you go.
Yep, I have nothing to update right now, so I'm good. I know it's shocking.
Okie doke. You're just saving your voice for later on. I know it.
Totally.
Okay. Totally. Okay, I'm going to mute you, Bhaskar. Does anybody else, show of hands, hit the little hand up signal if you have. Oh, there we go, Alexa. Okay, so Alexis, I think you're in the Pacific Northwest. Hang on, let me see if there's anybody else. So, by virtue of the fact you put your hand up, we're going to unmute you next. We're going to go to the Pacific Northwest. Okay, Alexis.
Hi, my name's Alexis. Oh, hi. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep. We can hear you.
Okay,
go for it.
Great. My company is Coastal Geologic Services, and we do restoration in the Pacific Northwest around the Puget Sound region. We just wanted to report that we removed over 6,500 feet of shore armor in the last 2 years, and we are a shop of 7 people. So around the Puget Sound, people are doing really great things, and we personally did 16 different projects and almost 1.5 miles of shore armor removal. And that's just a small piece of the pie in Puget Sound. So Puget Sound it's doing really well in restoration right now.
Fantastic. Okay, and I just got a note from Nicole. Thank you, by the way. I'm going to mute you now, Alexis. Alrighty, and then we have Nicole Fagan, who also has an update. And Nicole, I'm about to unmute you. Here you go. You want to give your update now?
Hi. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay. So Pacific Northwest is doing great. And in addition to all the fantastic work that Alexa talked about, we are also engaged in some really wonderful programs for education outreach and training and technical assistance. We have the program Green Shores for Homes that is kicking off, where we have communities that are becoming Green Shores for Homes communities. We also have Green Shores for Homes certifications developing. We also have a program called Shore Friendly that is social marketing for shoreline homeowners, and that's working in 5 different communities. And also our conservation districts are working as well as some other nonprofits in the area, working directly with the homeowners, training the realtors, and today there actually is a workshop training the contractors.
Fantastic. Great to hear all that great stuff going on up there. Thank you, Nicole. I'm going to mute you now. All right, and Teresa Mitchell, also, we've had a very nice representation from the Pacific Northwest today. All right, Teresa, you are unmuted, so give us your update.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great.
Great. Just a quick update that I've received a request from the Army Corps Seattle District to do some training with their regulatory staff on the Marine Shoreline Design Guidelines for soft armoring approaches. So we did that probably about 2 years ago when the design guidelines first came out, and they have a kind of a whole new batch of recruits that they want to train up. So we're going to try and get in front of the Army Corps regulatory branch again, and I think that's a great opportunity and a relationship that we're going to keep trying to nurture there.
Fantastic. Great to hear. All right. Thank you, Teresa. All righty. So let's see. Do we have anybody in the, let's see. Do we have anybody in the Great Lakes? Can you raise your hand? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and swing on over to the Northeast. Let's see. Is there anybody that has an update? If so, raise your hand. Going once, going twice. All right. We already did Mid-Atlantic. We'll go down to the Southeast. Anybody have any updates? Raise your hand on that one. All right, hearing none. I know we have some Gulf people. Melody, did you want to chime in at all? If so, raise your hand. Actually, Melody, I'm going to unmute you. Hang on. Melody, did you have any updates? I know there were some interesting things that have been happening.
I don't think I have any updates for this month after our March
Okay.
14th Living Shoreline.
No problem. Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Melody. I'm going to mute you again. All right. Let's see. Okay, anybody else? Hands raised. No hands raised. Okay. And then we'll go to the Pacific. Oh, yeah, Pacific Southwest. I see we have a couple of folks from the California area on. Any updates you want to give? Hand up. Going once? Going twice? All righty. All right, so with that, we will go ahead and jump right to our focus topic and question and answer session, which is on the systems approach to geomorphic engineering. And it will be Bari Greenfeld, with the core. So Bari, here we go. I'm going to give you control. You ready?
I'm ready.
There we go. Coming over to you.
Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes, they look lovely.
Fantastic. Okay, well, Suzanne, thank you so much. Everyone here at SAGE really appreciates the opportunity to connect with this group. So I will get started with some of the basic principles of SAGE, the systems approach to geomorphic engineering. The SAGE program works to integrate both green and gray solutions for coastal protection, like living shorelines as an example. We use a systems approach by planning for green and gray solutions on a regional scale and making sure that those plans and projects are informed by our understanding of natural coastal processes like sediment transport. And our primary goal with SAGE is to increase the resilience of coastal communities. And we use the term communities broadly. We mean the humans and buildings along with the wildlife and ecosystems because they all need to be healthy to withstand future changes. And we conduct our work by building partnerships that improve collaboration between the public and private sectors and increase communication among coastal practitioners about science, tools, and demonstration projects that are going on across the country. Another part of our systems approach is the understanding that resilience really depends on local needs and conditions. Shoreline landscapes, as you very well know, are often a patchwork of sensitive ecosystems and lots of existing structural elements. So from this landscape perspective, you can't holistically achieve resilience by using only green solutions or only gray solutions. It's important to carefully and creatively consider the full spectrum of green and gray techniques that can be employed and integrated within a region. And in particular, SAGE focuses on combinations that maximize both flood protection and ecological benefits, as well as those that protect and enhance natural coastal features where they can. So how does SAGE work? SAGE is a community of practice. It operates as a network of practitioners around the country who are working to advance the use of living shorelines and other kinds of natural and nature-based features. This network is a collaborative effort between many different sectors, including federal and state agencies, NGOs, academic institutions, and private business and engineering firms. And you can see logos from some of our partners here. And some of the benefits of using a community of practice approach, and I'm hoping this will resonate with all of you being a community of practice yourselves. First of all, our knowledge about the use of green and gray solutions is constantly evolving. How to design them for different environments, how to determine optimal sites, navigate the permitting process, construction methods, how they perform over time, how to define and measure the success of a project. So as more people around the country are testing the waters, literally, and making these observations, a community of practice provides a great forum to learn from each other. So in this regard, the objective of SAGE is to facilitate communication among practitioners so that they can exchange information and build off of each other's experiences. And this really helps to grow partnerships that can leverage resources and replicate success, and then on the flip side, reduce the likelihood of duplicating efforts or repeating the same mistakes. And lastly, but very importantly, a community of practice is also meant to encourage innovation, and SAGE strives to create an informal space for experts to think creatively and engage in active problem solving. So next, I'll just quickly walk you through the framework of our community of practice. SAGE is structured at both the national and regional levels. So going from left to right, at the national level, we have a leadership team that helps guide the long-term vision of SAGE, and a management team that oversees daily activities and keeps everyone organized. We also have a set of work groups where practitioners have assembled to address some of the main issues related to implementing green and gray solutions. We have a science, engineering, and technical work group, a policy work group, finance work group, and communications work group. And then at the regional level, SAGE supports more localized communities of practice that work on coordinated planning activities for green and gray solutions at the estuary scale. We had those activities in Barnegat Bay, New Jersey, San Francisco Bay, and Chesapeake Bay. And in this slide, I want to draw your attention to those two-way arrows that go between the national work groups and the regional activities, because there's an ongoing flow of information between the two. The national work groups serve as a resource for the regional activities in two main ways. Number one, they provide expertise and advice as needed and as they relate to some of the local activities. And number two, they provide a forum for the regions to share their work with a national audience and connect with others around the country that might be doing similar things. And collectively, among all of these components, there are about 100 people involved. Some more information about the national work groups. Each work group is co-led by representatives from two different sectors. So for example, the science, engineering, and technical team is co-led by Denise Reed from the Water Institute of the Gulf and Michelle Harmon from NOAA. These groups generally hold monthly conference calls, and as I mentioned before, they are primarily a place where members can share information about what they are working on in their respective organizations and talk through topics of interest. But they also work on tangible projects that have annual goals and deliverables. So an example also from our science, engineering, and technical team is that a subset of those members will be producing a report on metrics that can be used to monitor and evaluate the success of green and hybrid green-gray projects. That report should be coming out very soon. And lastly, they support the regional activities as requested. Some more detail about the regional activities. Again, this is where SAGE is helping to develop place-based communities of practice that are advancing a regional planning approach for green and gray solutions. These efforts are intended to expand the knowledge base of practitioners on the ground, connect them to resources that can inform decision-making, demonstrate the value of cross-sector collaboration, and really increase capacity at the local level to begin considering and implementing natural and nature-based approaches. So our regional activities, again, are located in San Francisco Bay, Barnegat Bay, Chesapeake Bay, and then we are in the early stages of developing some regional activities in the Cheniere Plain region, the border between Texas and Louisiana, and the Lake Erie shoreline of Ohio. So it's important to note that there is no cookie cutter approach that SAGE is taking to building these communities of practice. every region is developing differently, and we've observed they're at a very different stage of their development with regard to knowledge and implementation of green and gray solutions. And often, I think there's the perception that SAGE is a heavy Army Corps initiative that might be run like other Army Corps activities people are familiar with. It's not, it's different. It really is a partnership among all of the sectors. SAGE does not come into a region and try and take charge of the process that's going on. In many cases, these kinds of conversations have already begun within a region. So SAGE is simply there to add support for the coordination. But that disclaimer aside, in general, the goals that we have for each of our regions are to, number one, build that community of practice by bringing together the knowledge and expertise from all of the relevant sectors, strengthen those connections among existing groups if there are some, and then second, establish a regional plan or work with an existing plan if there is one by applying the collective knowledge from the community of practice to start setting some regional objectives and a common vision for green and gray solutions. And also identifying some priority areas where living shorelines or other natural features could be cited. And then third, implementing those plans by identifying both public and private funding sources that can be used to get projects on the ground. Point of clarification here, because this is a common question that we get. SAGE itself does not provide funds for constructing projects. Our role is primarily to build the capacity to think strategically about green and gray features across the landscape. And then we also do some facilitation of the regional planning activities. So one successful example of how a regional community of practice operates is Barnegat Bay, New Jersey. Barnegat Bay is a major estuary on the central New Jersey shore. It's located between the mainland and the barrier islands. It's an open, shallow water environment. They have a lot of ecologically valuable eelgrass beds. It's surrounded by both freshwater and saltwater wetlands. The primary issues in Barnegat Bay are wetland loss and shoreline erosion, which has contributed to reduced habitat for important species. It's also an area that's impacted by both point and non-point source pollution. The wetlands are shallow and poorly flushed and have a high nutrient load from surrounding agriculture. And this area also sustained some significant damage during Hurricane Sandy. So the SAGE activities in Barnegat Bay began by coordinating with stakeholders to understand all of the existing work that was going on within the region. And then from that, they assembled a community of practice with participants from the Army Corps Philadelphia District, the National Estuary Program, USGS, the Jacques Cousteau National Estuarine Research Reserve, several state agencies, county representatives, NGOs, and universities. And together, they developed a regional strategy that identified and prioritized potential projects and funding needs. Because of this collaboration, because they built this strong partnership, they were able to receive in 2016 funding to conduct research in one of their priority areas from a Federal Highway Administration Green Infrastructure Grant. So that's the very quick overview of how SAGE functions. If you are interested in getting more involved with SAGE, and we hope that you are, there are a few ways to do that. Number one, you could join one of the national work groups. This is definitely a higher level of engagement and time commitment. While you will be rewarded with very good discussions on the monthly work group calls, you also will be expected to contribute to the deliverables that a group might be working on. Or if you are working in a region where SAGE does have ongoing activities, we are happy to get you connected to those. Or if you're just interested in general updates from SAGE, please visit our website and sign up for our mailing list. The link is listed here on the slide. You will receive our quarterly newsletter and will be signed up for other updates that the team sends across. And then lastly, new this year, we are going to be hosting a webinar series that will start later this spring, early summer. And if you're on the email list, you will get the notifications about that as well. My contact information is listed here. Please feel free to get in touch with me. Again, here is the link to our SAGE website. And for the discussion component today, we have on the line with me an all-star team of SAGE partners. So I just wanted to briefly introduce them. Also from Army Corps IWR office, we have Mariah Avalera and Anna Baker, Chris Hilka from the National Wildlife Federation, Pam Mason from the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, Kim Penn from NOAA, Denise Reed from the Water Institute of the Gulf, John Ryan Henry, our Canal Sea Grant Fellow, Bhaskar Subramanian from Maryland Department of Natural Resources, and last, only because I'm doing this in alphabetical order, Bradley Watson from the Coastal States Organization. So I think that's everyone. If not, please chime in. And Suzanne, I hand it back to you.
Fantastic. So if you want to give me the, give my screen back, that would be lovely.
Will do.
Great. That was really interesting, and I certainly appreciate. I know I have a number of questions that are popping up in my mind, but I will, oops, here we go, I will, there we are. I will let others ask questions, and what I will do is I will unmute the team as you, so Bhaskar, you're coming off of mute, so no cursing, kidding. Let's see, Chris Hilke, I'm going to unmute you as well. Let's see, John Ryan Henry, you are off mute, as is, let's see, Pam. Mariah, there you go. Pam, you are, there we go. And let's see, did I get everybody? I think so. Let's see. So if anybody does have a question, Kelly Barnes, did you have a question?
Yes, hi, thank you. This is Kelly Barnes. I'm from the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm also on the SAGE communications team, and Bari kindly mentioned the webinars that we have coming up, and I just wanted to announce the dates and the title of at least the first one so you can mark your calendar. So the first one we have coming up is May 18th, and the exact title of that one is Habitat Restoration Approaches to Improve Community and Ecosystem Resilience. And that's by Rick Bennett, Dr. Richard Bennett, PhD, regional scientist from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So he will be giving our first webinar. The next two, just so you can mark your calendar, are June 15th and July 20th. We will have speakers from NOAA and from different, let's see what the other, the third was from the Environmental Defense Fund and the Conservation Fund. We've got Eric Myers and Shannon Cuniff for that. And the second one, which I mentioned, was June 15th. We have Ecological Effects of Sea Level Rise Program, and that's David Kidwell, oceanographer from NOAA. So that's it for me, just announcing the webinars. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. All righty. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand and I will unmute you. But in the meantime, I have a number of questions, in part from earlier conversations. So, so I know, I guess I'll aim this maybe at you, Bari, or whoever else can answer. So you gave an example of a regional effort in Barnegat Bay, and then you also mentioned the effort on metrics that the technical worker, or I forget the exact name, they're working on. What are some of the other projects, for example, with the policy team or with some of the other teams? I think that would be helpful for people to understand the full breadth of the anticipated either deliverables or efforts?
Well, this is Bari. I work primarily with the policy team, so I can speak to that. The group has identified several federal policies that they wanted to focus on. The first one was permitting, so we were involved with the process of developing the new nationwide permit for living shorelines. The group provided some comments there. That was last year. And then this year, we are looking to focus on cost-benefit analysis and how that impacts the implementation of projects. We've heard a lot that there is difficulty for federal projects, especially in accounting for all of the environmental benefits of a project and getting that counted when they do cost and benefit analysis. So often hard armoring projects are favored through that process. So we're going to do an exploration there, maybe provide some case studies. In terms of the communications team, that's the webinars is their main focus, but I can pass it back to Kelly and to Pam Mason on the phone if they have other updates.
So this is Pam.
Kelly.
Sorry. Kelly, you want to
No, go ahead, Pam. I was just going to say.
So I think that the other question perhaps that Suzanne mentioned was also the financial, the finance team. And I don't believe we have anybody on the call, but if we do, they can jump in. But I would point out that the third of the webinars that Kelly mentioned earlier, so the one in July, is going to be focused on some of those efforts. So that team is sort of ginning up some efforts to look at creative financing and find ways to build interest in investing in natural infrastructure. And so that's going to be the topic for that third seminar. So I thought I'd just share that as well.
And this is Kelly. Just to let you all know, we do have a newsletter issue coming out quite soon, and we'll really start to be more regular with that, and there's just a lot going on from all of our partners. So if you aren't on the newsletter or the distribution list, as Bari mentioned, you can go sign up on the website. You'll get the announcements, because in addition to the webinar, we've got a lot of exciting things happening at conferences and a bunch of stuff. So you want to stay involved. I'll just put in a plug for that.
And then
that's great. Yeah, go ahead.
Is Denise Reed on the line? Because she is the lead for our science, engineering, and technical team. Perhaps she might be able to give an update from that.
Unless she signed in to somebody else, she is not showing up as one of the attendees.
Okay.
Susan, she said she's in the car, and she might actually just, she might not have access to the web thing.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Denise, well, then but if she doesn't have access to the web thing, I can't unmute her, unfortunately. So can anybody give a report out on her behalf?
Bhaskar, I think you call into those teams, don't you?
I do, and let me see, and Kim Penn. You're it, Kim.
So, this is Pam Mason again. I do know, I think I missed the last call, but I do know that there's several things that are going on with the SET team, and I do know that Denise had wanted to join, and maybe she's listening, and can follow up if people are interested. I'm sure that she'd be happy to provide more information. But I know one of the things that we were talking about somewhat recently was developing a process for doing some storm-based monitoring to actually do some assessment and do some actual data collection during and immediately post-storm, sort of nor'easter, hurricane, larger tropical and extratropical events. And I know that there was some effort into putting together, you know, a framework of what that would look like. And I think that's one thing that they're trying to pursue, because that speaks to some questions that people really have about the effectiveness of some of the gray-green projects and techniques in addressing storm-driven erosion and flooding. So I know that piece, but maybe perhaps someone else on the phone also knows some more.
Hi, this is Mariah Avalera. Just wanted to jump in from the engineering standpoint. We are looking at developing design criteria with our engineering team and in conjunction with the science team. So that's something that is in the works as well.
Great, thank you. Any other comments by the SAGE team about that? All right, hearing none. Does anybody, I've got some more questions, but I also want some of the folks, the attendees, to raise your hand metaphorically or maybe literally in your office if you do have any questions. All right, so I have a question for the SAGE team. How are these geographic regions chosen? And I know, Bari, in your presentation, you had indicated that you were going into a couple of other regions, but is there, so A, I guess, how were these regions chosen? And B, is there a goal to make it even more broadly implemented regionally? And if so, how can people, I guess, make their case for their region?
Well, the first 3 regions that I mentioned were ones where we, who sit in a national office for the Army Corps, knew that there were folks in our district offices that were really interested in engaging more on nature and nature-based features. So we empowered them to go into their regions and connect with stakeholders and see what the interest level was. And those were the 3 where they found a lot of interest, a lot of eagerness, and were able to start assembling those communities of practice. Once we had those first 3 established, and I think the word has spread more about SAGE, the 2 regions I mentioned that are in the earlier stages of development, the Cheniere Plain and Lake Erie, people from within those regions approached us about bringing some of the SAGE principles and developing communities of practice there. In the Cheniere Plain, it was the Gulf Coast Prairie LCC who came to us, and then in Ohio, it was the Old Woman Creek National Estuarine Research Reserve. So we were working with both of those as like the primary engine drivers of SAGE. I'll turn it over to Mariah to talk about how we might be expanding that into the future.
Yeah, I think as far as working in other regions, the goal is obviously to try to connect as far-reaching as we can. So we've been working with others and doing webinars and conferences to try to reach out and really act as a network for those working within their various regions that have I'll use the term SAGE-like activities going on, and we're really hoping that we can be a resource in various ways. So it's not just necessarily that we would come in and explain how to do things, but really just to reach out and see how can we help as a community of practice, and what are the different ways that we can provide resources, whether that be through science expertise or connecting with others that are doing similar projects, so that there will be greater understanding and less of a learning curve. So really, I'd say as a national community of practice, we're looking to be a resource and a network to those at the regional level, and then through our website and our communication team, that's really how we're trying to reach out as far as possible and be that resource to the nation and all the various regions. And I'll give our other team members, Chris or Bhaskar or Pam, an opportunity to add on to that if they want to.
Hi there, Mariah. This is Chris. Can folks hear me? Am I off mute?
We can hear you. No, we can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Great. This is Chris Ilka with the National Wildlife Federation. I just wanted to build on what Mariah was saying with regard to the regional communities of practice. You know, I think that it's less about a region making a case. This work, natural defenses, hybrid approaches, is occurring all over the country and is really gaining pace. And so I think it's less a matter of making a case and more about interaction with that activity. And on that point, I would reference what Bari said earlier about those two-way lines between regions and working groups. It's not just that these working groups can perhaps provide resources and expertise to regions that are engaged in this work, but also the regions can feed the working groups and provide expertise to those working groups. So there's a real reciprocity there that I think is key both to the SAGE network as a whole, but also specifically to those working groups, to keeping them engaged and the content that they're working on fresh. So I would highlight that.
Fantastic. Any other comments by the SAGE team? We do have a question, but I didn't want to cut off conversation. Anything else by the SAGE team? Okie dokie. Nicole Fagan, I am going to unmute you. Here we go. Go ahead with your questions or comments. Hi.
Yes. I actually have 3 questions, but I'll spread them out. But I'll start with, one was the follow-up on the SET team. One of the issues in the Northwest in Washington that I believe is one of our biggest problems is this effectiveness issue and monitoring to demonstrate that our approaches are actually working. So I guess 2 questions. One, and this is for everybody on the line, is one, do you have examples and resources, references of how methodologies that you have used to demonstrate the effectiveness? And if so, can you share those with us in the Northwest? And then also, I guess, would be following along with SAGE is, do you have a methodology that you're going to start applying for demonstrating effectiveness? So it's just all about how can I get more information about how we could be developing effectiveness in this region.
When you said methodologies, can you elaborate a little bit? Is it the technique, or I'm trying to understand the question actually. Hello?
Nicole, did you hear Bhaskar's question?
No, I can't. He's really, really faint. Can you repeat it?
Oh, I just wanted to check when you. Okay. When you said methodologies, I'm trying to understand your question a little bit better. Are you talking about the techniques?
Yeah. What is the way that you are going about demonstrating that these gray-green infrastructure projects are effective? That there was the mention of the storm-based monitoring and data collection, and so is that the way you're going about testing the effectiveness?
That's coming attractions, but in Maryland, we've been monitoring these projects for a very long time. I personally have gone to about 200 living shoreline projects in the past and monitored them and put a database together. And what we constantly do here is we look at those, we look at the data, we look at what those data reveal to us, and we try to incorporate those into our future projects. Now, in addition to it, SAGE also has a work group called Natural Infrastructure Metrics Group, and we are very close to actually releasing that, making it public. And these metrics would actually help any project, like depending on what the project goals are, one could actually look at these projects, look at the metrics, and decide whether their methodology has actually worked or not.
Thanks.
Does that help?
Sort of. What I'm thinking is I'll follow up with a call directly to you.
Awesome.
So this is Pam. I'm going to follow up on that. So the part of the trick, and you heard that the science and engineering team is going to try to make an effort at tackling this, and I think it ties in a little bit with the stuff that Bari was talking about with the cost benefit, but the critical piece is looking for the synergies at sort of the larger scale, and that doesn't mean that each individual project is large, although that is part of this, but where projects actually provide a cumulative benefit that is synergistically greater than the sum of the individual parts. And so that's something that the SAGE community of practice is really trying to focus on, and looking to that within context of, obviously within the context of storm events, which you mentioned earlier, but just within the context of overall community resilience from, ecosystem services, provision of ecosystem services, in the face of human development, sea level rise, whatever the various threats are for the coastal system. So that's another piece that we're trying to get our brain around. So, it's not just an individual site, but it's sort of the shared benefit on a larger scale.
Good.
Hi there, this is Kim Penn from NOAA. Can you guys hear me? I just got unmuted.
Yep, sorry about that, Kim. My apologies.
No worries at all. That was clearly my mistake. Sorry. I also wanted, in response to this question, to note that we, NOAA, have contracted with Associates to develop a searchable database on resources that can help with that question of effectiveness. So how do we know what information is out there in the literature on the effectiveness of different natural and nature-based approaches for coastal resilience? That was in response to a lot of the discussions from the SAGE community of practice, and it will be available on our Digital Coast website in the next, hopefully within the next month. So in that database, you'll be able to search by region. So you could search in the Northwest and look to see what information is out there in the literature, and that's both peer-reviewed, or not both, but that's across the range of peer-reviewed literature, case studies that are available, white papers, etc., that might have information on the effectiveness of different approaches in the coastal zone for natural and nature-based approaches. So hopefully that will also be able to help you out within your region.
Fantastic, thank you. Nicole, did you have, I think there were 3 parts or 3 questions. Nobody else has raised their hand, so if you'd like to continue with your questions, please feel free.
Sure. Okay, so let me go on with another one. So this is a little different angle. This is about the permit side of things, and I've been very impressed watching and following the Living Shorelines permitting going through the process, and I've tried to stay pretty close to what's going on here in Washington and how they've accepted, not accepted, rejected, not rejected, debating which way to go with the Living Shorelines nationwide permit. And my question for SAGE Group is, how are you connected to the regulatory branch, and are you at all providing assistance to them in their trying to determine how to use or whether to use the Living Shorelines permits?
SAGE team, that's to you.
I can talk about Maryland. You want me to talk about Maryland, Nicole?
Go for it. Go for it.
So yes, we are completely in tune with our state regulators, state permit regulators, and federal regulators, and we are constantly trying to update. You know, we have a living shorelines law in Maryland, so we're able to actually interact, share, you know, the information, and after a project is completed, put on the ground, we're able to monitor it and, you know, try to enhance the knowledge loop constantly. And we don't come under the nationwide, you know, the one that came, was it 13 something, right? We have our own programmatic general permit statewide, so ours is slightly different. But we are constantly in touch with all the regulatory agencies in Maryland, and we try to actually impress upon other core districts also.
And so this is Pam. I'll jump in too. I would say that basically we're in the same position in terms of folks at the Virginia Institute of Marine Science working with, in this case, it's the Norfolk District in Virginia. But I do also know that, and perhaps Kelly or Barry can jump in, but you know, that question is one of those where actions and opportunities and conversations occur sort of at that regional scale or the more local scale, and then at the national scale. And Barry mentioned, you know, working with the national group, so basically core headquarters on the nationwide, and I do know that folks at IWR interact with folks at the headquarters that are, you know, running the regulatory, so that's sort of like a multi-level conversation.
What I was sort of thinking about, and this is Nicole again, is there, and this is almost, I guess, agency staff to agency staff, since SAGE, it does have that core of engineers tagline, and, you know, is from the Corps of Engineers. Are people from the Corps of Engineers talking with these regulatory folks? And is that something that you're providing support to? Because when I ask people around Washington, I will ask the Corps people if, here in regulatory, if they're working with the SAGE folks, they only vaguely know what it is.
Right.
And so that was my question.
Right. And I think that there is definitely an opportunity to increase that conversation. When SAGE first started coming along a couple of years ago, that, you know, there's you know, we all have slightly different perspectives from where we sit, you know, in the different agencies, different sectors that we sit. And I had sort of expressed early on that one of the major potential clients for our work is the Corps itself. And at the time, you know, there was fairly broad agreement in the community of practice that that's the case. And because we know that even different districts, you know, they have their own colonel for 2 or 3 years, and then the colonel moves on. And so that the regulatory sector of the Corps is one consumer, hopefully, of information, and that we've talked about trying to be a little bit more intentional about making sure that they're aware. And then I think you had also asked, or perhaps Suzanne had asked, about the question of sort of where have we gotten to where we are with the different regions. And some of that is based on the fact that folks at IWR had been very intentional about going to districts and using districts as at least one platform for regional efforts. Not that that's the only construct there, but it is one, you know, that they're familiar with, and having conversations. And so to the extent that there was more ability and capacity and readiness at districts, sometimes those were the projects that have moved further along, you know, in terms of that regional local partnership. And so it's just an ongoing need for conversation, I think.
Yeah, and this is Bari. I can say that the Institute for Water Resources, where most of the SAGE staff come from, does not have any regulatory function whatsoever. So it's the folks at headquarters that crafted the nationwide permit are very separate from us. We do talk with them They do ask us, consult with us, but we don't formally have any way to influence that process. I can tell you that each of the districts will implement the nationwide permit a little bit differently. They can each attach regional conditions to it. Some of them have done so already. Some of them are debating how to do so. So I think the most effective way of finding out that information is to go to the district office and see what the progress has been there. And actually, separately, myself and Nikki Pace, who might be on the call, are going to be working on a journal article that will look at how different states and Army Corps districts are looking to implement the new nationwide permit and how it interacts with other state and local regulations.
Great, thank you to all of you. Okay, we do have another question. Marilyn Latta with the California Coastal Conservancy. I'm going to unmute you, Marilyn. Go for it.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate this discussion on the connection to regulatory, and fully understand that the SAGE program is housed in a different portion of these agencies in this collaboration. But I just want to really encourage that further integration with the district offices. For even here in San Francisco Bay, we didn't regional conditions put on Shorelines Permit 54. So while you can get a waiver for some of the metrics that are really hamstringing us from using it, so far our core district in San Francisco has not been comfortable to issue waivers for the size of projects that we need to implement and the spatial area projects we need to implement with our larger tidal regime of 5 to 7 feet. So anyway, just really would love to get to the status where Bhaskar is talking about, where there's just seamless and report between the state and federal, allowing for and supporting these. That said, I'd love to become much more familiar with the SAGE activities in this area.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marilyn. Any comments by the SAGE team to that? All righty. And I think we have time for one. We can squeeze in one more question. And let's see, Nicole, was there a third question in your sequence? And if so, I will be unmuting you. Did you have a third question, Nicole?
Sure. I'm going to ask this one on behalf of both Alexa and Teresa, and that has to do with the marine shoreline design guidelines that we developed in Washington State and that have been working their way towards sort of the standard for how do you design and implement these soft shore projects. I understood you said that you are developing, the SET team is developing design criteria, and I would like to know whether or not the marine shoreline design guidelines are going to be cross-referenced or somehow used also in order for us to start having some consistency or building upon what we've already done, and just putting that out there.
All right,
yeah, this is Mariah.
Team.
Yeah, this is Mariah. I think that would be great to connect, and at this point we've really just begun to get the engineering team together, so we're trying to develop a group of engineers from various sectors, and I think if we could get your contact information and we can connect, that would be great to bring what you're doing and the expertise from that region to what we're doing at the national level.
Thanks. Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. And this is Suzanne. I am happy to facilitate any sort of communication or cross-pollination or getting people contact information. So please don't hesitate to get in touch on that front. All righty. So Alexis. All right. Real quick. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm also with Nicole on the Marine Shoreline Design Guidelines and just want to be cross-pollinated or whatever you just said. I think it'd be really good to also collaborate with that. I was one of the authors on that as well as the company I work for. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alexis. All right, with that, our time has come to a close. Thank you very, very much for your participations and the robust Q&A, and a big, big thanks to Bari Greenfeld with the Army Corps and the entire SAGE team. As I had mentioned earlier, we have been recording this session online, and we will be sharing that recording link once it's processed. So on that note, again, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and have a fantastic day. Bye, everybody.